Hi everyone, welcome to episode 141 of the Arieknits podcast. My name is Ariel and this is a video podcast where I talk about all the things that I've been knitting and spinning on. Usually I say for the past week, but it has been a few weeks since the last time I recorded because I took a nice long holiday break for myself. I was like pretty busy. Two, I wanted to spend all the time that I had with my friends and family, and so that is exactly what I did. So I had a great end of the year. I also had a great start of 2026, a great New Year's celebration too that I had with my family, and that was super nice. And so I hope you all had a great holiday break. I hope you all had some kind of break, hopefully, to recharge and get ready for the new year. Happy New Year to all of you. Hopefully 2026 will be a great year. And yeah, today it is Saturday, January 10th, and so we're already a bit into January, which is crazy to me, but let's get right into it. So, first for this video, because it's the first one of 2026, I will start off with just the normal stuff, what I'm wearing, whips, new cast-ons, and some spinning. I did do some spinning, finally, and then I will probably briefly kind of go through some of the fun things that happened over the break while I was gone for a little bit and not making videos. And then I do want to end talking about how I did with my 2025 goals, just reviewing what they were and if I accomplished them, and then also to talk about what my goals are for this year, for 2026. So let's get started. First, what I am wearing. This was a nearly finished object last year. I think that when I last talked about it, it was almost done. It was washed and blocked, I think, but I still need to sew on the pockets. So now the pockets are sewed on. I realized that I did not sew on the buttons, but I'm calling it done, and I am wearing it today so that I can show it to you all. This is the Comebackigan by Andrea Mowry. The yarn I use for this is Viking Fibre Co. Lofn Sport Base in the colorway Blood Oath. This is the first time that I used this yarn from this yarn brand, and I really like it. I went to their booth and bought this yarn at Flock in 2025, which was last year. I need to remember. Now it's a new year. That last Flock was last year. And I made size 2. I used US 5 needles, 3.75 millimeter needles for the main body knitting, the stitch pattern. And then final measurements I got for this was pretty right on to what the pattern is for this size, which is 38 inches in circumference, and so that gives me about 8 inches of positive ease. And I put this on for the first time today, actually, and so I can't really give you a kind of I wore it all day and how did it go thing yet on this, but wow, I put this on and I immediately was like, it's magical. So I will stand up. This is what it looks like. Again, no buttons yet, but you can see where the buttons are going to be. I do plan on putting buttons on this. I just haven't picked it out yet. But here it is. I will stand maybe a little bit closer here so you can see this nice raglan line and that shaping. The ribbing here in contrast with this, the stitch pattern for the rest of the body of this cardigan. Patch pockets, so the pockets were made first. You can make them whenever you want, but it's kind of nice that in the pattern they're listed to do first so that they can also act as your gauge swatch. And then you just sew them on, just right on top. I tried to make them as even as possible on both sides. Here's the length. The length is a great length. I think it definitely is a more full length. It is not cropped at all on me. Here's the sleeve length, I think really great. Sleeve shaping is also really nice. There's enough room in the sleeve for me to wear. I am wearing a thin long sleeve shirt under this right now, and it does not feel tight or bunchy at all, which is great. And it's still enough length where I do like when it at least covers this much of my wrist, just to keep me a little more warm with my hands, because my hands get cold so easily. So yeah, so it's great. Okay. Oh, and I wanted to mention you probably saw it, but the button band is a double knit button band. Took a bit of time, but it was definitely worth it. I really like how this yarn blocked. It's so nice and drapey, but it still has structure. And one thing about this yarn It is a non-superwash yarn, and that's kind of all I was thinking about, but when I bought this yarn for this pattern, I was mostly looking for color because I wanted I wanted to make this cardigan, but the hardest part for me was finding a yarn color I wanted to make it in, because whatever I had in my stash none of it really spoke to me for this pattern. And then also I needed a sport weight yarn. So when I went to Flock, I was searching for yarn for this, but I was like, if I don't find one that totally matches, it's also fine. But when I came across this, I was like, 1, I love the color, 2, it's in a sport weight, and it's non-superwash. And I did feel like for this pattern, a non-superwash would be nice to kind of like still have some kind of structure. I want to say, I don't really want to use the word however, but when I was knitting this, I realized, I was like, oh, this yarn has a bit more of a drapey feel to it, and I was a little worried about that being like, it kind of felt a little bit the drape of maybe like an alpaca yarn or something like that. And so I was like, ooh, I don't want it to be just like floppy, but you know, it's fine, and I'm going to keep going. And it still has that. It's a nice soft, kind of like smooth feel to it. And so anyway, I blocked it, and it's great. I absolutely love the drape of this. I don't think that it is like super like, not what I was fearing, which was just like super kind of like stretched out and no structure kind of thing. It does still have, I think, good structure, but nice drape so it doesn't feel stiff. And I feel like I've just been saying the same words in different ways for maybe like 10 words now, but I just want to say I'm really happy with how this came out. And I was very pleased. Like I put this on for the first time today, and I was like, ooh, is this my new favorite cardigan? So, which is kind of a lot of my newly finished things kind of become my new favorite thing. But this really, I was like, ooh, I like this. I like the fit of it. I think the raglan's really nice. And it's so comfortable. And it fit very easily over the shirt that I'm wearing, which I think is great. I get cold, and so I need to layer. And so lately I've been always wearing like a thin long sleeve shirt under all my knit things. And so, yeah, when it feels nice right now. Nothing feels like it's pulling anywhere, or it's not bunching anywhere. It just feels nice and warm, and it's perfect. Also, the V-neck depth, I think, is really great. It's not too low, and I guess it's open right now because I don't have buttons, but yeah, the V-neck is not too low, it's not too high, it's not too wide, it's not too, like, close in the front. I really like it, and I really like the color that it's in. So I'm very happy. I'm excited to wear this more this year now that it is done. And the weather is still cold, and so I get to wear this a whole bunch more. And yeah, I don't want to talk too long about it, but I'm very happy with how it fits and the color and how it looks. I just need to add on buttons, but I'm calling it good. It might take a while for me to add buttons, but I do think this one in particular would look great with buttons. So I will figure that out. But overall, great as a finished object. I would say making it was a struggle in the beginning. I kind of had a very slow start. Like I made like one pocket, and then I didn't touch it for probably like at least a month, I think. And then I like zoomed all the way through this. It is worked bottom up. It is a cardigan, so it's worked flat. And bottom up also meaning that for the sleeves are also worked from the cuff up till where you need to join them to the body. And then if you've ever worked a raglan bottom up, it does get a little strange to do when those first beginning rows where you're connected, because the armhole is just really tight turns on your needles, and so it's a bit, and you have like the whole body of the sleeves and the body of the sweater kind of like hanging off your needles, and so it feels a little bit like having to move a whole bunch of your knitting around while you're knitting, but I think it was worth it. And yeah, okay, that's all I have to say about the Comebackigan right now. And yeah, let's move on. I have two finished objects to share with you. And they're both new cast-ons from the last time we've talked. So, during my break, I did kind of like cast on a few things. I think it might have been 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess it is the 4 things that I'm talking about today. I have 2 finished, 2 of them I started and finished, and 2 are whips. And so all of them are new cast-ons from the last time we've talked. And so I do want to talk about the first thing that I finished. This was the first thing also that I finished at the beginning of this year. I cast it on last year, but I finished it the very beginning of this year. Okay, it's finished knitting. I wove in the ends. I just have not washed and blocked it. I should have done that before today's video, but I did not. So, but I will hold it up anyway. It is the Relax Tee by Aimee Sher. I've been wanting to make this ever since the pattern came out, and it never quite fit into my schedule. I mean, I don't have like a set schedule, but it just never came up into the things that I cast on. So I finally cast it on, and the yarn I use is Big Little Yarn Co. Super Wash Merino Fingering Base in the colorway Reikai, and this was from her Studio Ghibli collection, like, I think a few years ago. I knit size A, and I use US 4 needles, 3.5 millimeter needles to knit this. Okay, I'm going to hold it up now. Ta-da! I, as you can see, made the short sleeve, the T version. There is also in the pattern instructions to make it long sleeve, and I would love to make the long sleeve version as well. But here it is. You can really tell that it is not washed and blocked because if you knit, you probably can tell. It's looking a little scrunched up and bunchy, especially around the ribbing at the hem, but washing will fix that. I will hold it up a little closer so you can see the yarn colorway. It is a light, kind of like pastel, pink, gray, purple kind of color. Here it is. I know my lighting is not the greatest right now. And then here's the stitch pattern on this. It's kind of like mainly stockinette with just like 2 rows of like those purl bumps acting as stripes. And I really like this. I had this yarn in my stash for quite some time too. And, I am blurry. Okay, let's fix this camera. But yeah, I had this yarn in my stash for quite a while. I mean, ever since she had this yarn collection, and I got it. And I had some plans for the yarn, and then I disregarded those plans. I wanted to make something else, but I didn't know what. And I was like, I had 2 skeins of the fingering weight, and I was like, I think it would be great to make this. And I used up, I think, most of it, a lot of it. I wasn't playing yarn chicken or anything, but I did use a good amount of it. I feel really good. One thing, though, I did have to alternate skeins for this. And I really normally don't alternate skeins unless I feel like there's a huge difference. And for these skeins, I wound both of them up because I was traveling, and so I had to wind them both up at the same time. Usually I don't, and in this case, I'm really glad I did, because once they were wound up, obviously I use most of them now, and so I wonder if you can even see. Here, I'll show you how much of each I had. And honestly, I think maybe towards the end, like this part, you can't really tell that there was a difference between the 2. But when they were bigger skeins or caked in skeins, they look the same. Wound up, one of them looked a lot more light, and one was a little bit darker and more kind of variegated than the other. And so I decided to play it extremely safe and just alternate skeins for this. And it honestly worked out fine. It was just a bit of it just meant that this was not going to be a plain knit for me, because that's being attached to 2 balls for me of yarn I do not like. Don't like it at all. I find it very distracting and disrupts my flow in the knitting. So, and especially with like if I'm on, you're on a plane, confined space, I don't want to have to deal with that. So this was not my plain knit, but this was my at-home knit. But I think it turned out great. You can't really see. I think in the beginning I noticed, I was like, ooh, you can kind of see like striping happening at the top between the two skeins, but as an entire piece, it looks great. Here, I'm going to just one more time try to see if you can see at the top. I mean, the striping can also come down to like just how the variegated yarn kind of works up too, but it was great. It was worked top down, and I think I just followed the measurements for this. Just followed the pattern. I don't think I changed anything. My gauge was pretty spot on, I think. And yeah, I just need to wash and block it and then put it on, and I think it'll be great. So yeah, I have the first finished object of 2026, which is so great, and I'm really glad that it is this pattern because I've been wanting to make it for a while. I don't think that I've knit an Aimee Sher pattern in a while too, and she has great stuff, and so I really wanted to get back into knitting her patterns, and so I'm very happy. So hopefully you'll see this. Hopefully it's wash and block by next video, next week, so that you can see it worn and fully finished. But okay, so that's the relaxed tee. Next up is a project that I have been wanting to make for myself for a very long time. It's very simple. This did end up being my plain knit, both for the ride going home to Hawaii and then coming back. There's no pattern. I did not follow a pattern, but it is a 2x2 rib leg warmer and leg warmers. I made two, one for each leg. And I used some hand-dyed yarn that's in a DK weight yarn, and I don't remember exactly what the base was, but I think it was just a pretty standard DK weight yarn that I hand-dyed myself, I think a couple years ago. And I had 2 skeins of it, and I wanted to make, I don't know if you remember, but I think it was either last year or the year before that, I made leg warmers for my skating coach, and they were gray, and they were all the way up. She wanted them to be very long, that all the way up from the ankle to over her knee, and they look so cute, and I was like, I want to make myself those, but they're quite boring knit. You're just knitting. I have no increases or decreases on them, and so it's just a very long tube, 2 very long tubes and 2x2 rib, and anyway, I always wanted to knit other things. But because I needed to find a plain knit for this trip, I was like, I'm going to do it. It's because it's a great plain knit. You're just knitting in the round over and over, and they're super long, and so it'll keep me busy for the entire flight. I'm going to hold up the ones that I have. Here's the 2. Here's how long they are. They actually don't look that long, but each of them... Do I have the leftover yarn? Ah, yes. So each one took almost a full skein of the yarn, and so I just this is like how much left of each skein that was left. I did want to just use all of it, but it was starting to get really long. Like, I put them on my leg, and I was like, it's gonna start getting, I don't want them to be that much over my knee. I want them to be above my knee, but not like the full length of like pants, So anyway, this is them. And what else? Oh, I did a 68 stitch cast on. It's the same number I had for my coach, and I did try hers on before I gave it to her to see if it fit me too, and it did, and so I just did the same. I'm trying to get the camera here to focus so you can see the leg warmers here. I really love the color on this. It is not something I think I can ever repeat if I wanted to dye this again, because actually this yarn was a kind of, I dyed it twice. The first time around, I think it was like a blue, like a pretty blue, and like a magenta. And some parts where it combined was kind of purpley, but then a lot of it was also kind of white. And I didn't like how that turned out, but it was one of my first kind of rounds, maybe second or third rounds of dyeing yarn. So I did that, and I was like, I don't really like it. I'm going to over dye it. And the plan was to over dye it a really dark brown. Like, I was like, if I just dye it a really dark brown then it'll just be a solid dark brown color. And as you can see, it did not turn out to be a solid dark brown color. It kind of, you can still see the blue and some of the magenta, and then, I mean, it looks like a variegated yarn, very much so, not atonal. But that's what happened, so I don't think I used enough dark brown. It looks pretty dark brown to me, but I guess spread up over 2 skeins, it was not enough dye to fully make this a dark brown. But whatever happened, whatever combination it was, I really love how this colorway turned out, and now I knit it up, and it's like pretty fun. I feel like it feels a little bit like, if you spin yarn and then you knit with it, it like feels extra special, and it kind of feels like that too when you like dye yarn too. It is a different feeling, and I don't know how to describe it. Like it's a different rewarding feeling of knitting with your own hand-dyed yarn. But this was pretty cool. It was nice. And so part of what helped me get through knitting all of this was being like, oh, I dyed this yarn. Like that's pretty cool, and seeing how it knits up. So it was really nice. Again, just like a simple project. I think I did a lot of it on the plane. I did a lot, I would say more than half of it, I would say happened on the plane, each ride. And so like the ride going to Hawaii, I started one, and then I finished it in Hawaii because then I wanted to start the second one on the plane ride back. And so that's what I did. And then I finished the second one maybe a couple days ago, I think, just to get it. I was like, I'm so close. I need to just get this over with and done with. And I'm hoping, actually, maybe I will skate with these on tomorrow, potentially, maybe. That would be pretty cool. So, yeah, I'm telling you guys all this, so I speak it out to the world, and then it'll force myself to actually do it and to pack it into my bag. So, yeah. Anyway, that was a very long, I feel like, story about just a normal, very simple 2x2 rib leg warmers, but it's been a long time. Long time coming from when I really wanted to make myself these to actually making them for myself. So, very proud of myself for doing that. Great plain knit again, and they're done. Yay. So that was my 2 finished objects so far for the year. Amazing. So cool. Okay, let's talk about my whips. These ones are, okay, I mean, both of these, very exciting. One, maybe predictable, but let's talk about the one I don't think you can guess about. Okay, this one I started to bring for my trip home, and I made so much progress on this. I knit on this a lot when I was in Hawaii. Okay, this one is the Yonagi. It is a cardigan by Hiromi Otsuru, and the yarn I used is Knit Picks High Desert Sport Weight yarn in the colorway Mustang Heather. And actually, this is, well, the main color is Mustang Heather, and I do have a skein of this here, so I do want to hold it up. So here's what the skein looks like. And High Desert Sport Weight, it does not say on the tag here, but on the website, it is, the reason why I got this was because it is the Shaniko base, which is the Merino Rambouillet, from Knit Picks. And so it's a much more affordable yarn than some hand-dyed yarn. And yeah, I wanted to try this out. Yeah, on the tag, it just says 100% American wool, but it is Shaniko Merino Rambouillet. And yeah, I wanted to try this out as like an affordable Shaniko yarn from Knit Picks. And so this is my main color. It's a brown color. And later on in the pattern, just on the sleeves, and I'm sure I put up a picture already of it, so you know what part of the sleeves, the cuff, or right before the cuff, anyway, on the sleeve cuff part, I'll need to use 2 more colors of yarn, and so, yeah, we'll get to it, but this one, ooh, does it say? It does not say. On this, oh, on this tag, there's a sticker that says 100% Shaniko wool, which is, that's interesting, but yeah. So it's a High Desert Sport Weight base from Knit Picks. And anyway, these are the other 2 colorways, but I haven't used them yet. Okay, as you can see, I'm still trying to like get into remembering how to how to film these videos. I feel it's been a while, so bear with me, please. I am knitting size 1, and I'm using US 5 needles, 3.75 millimeter needles to knit this. That is the main needle size. I think I will have to size down for like the ribbing and stuff. But let me hold up what I have so far. All right, here it is. Ta-da! Woo! Okay, it is worked top down, and the kind of collar, so the collar is not broken rib, but it is a kind of ribbing, seat stitch ribbing. In the pattern, I don't think it says what it is called, but it is symmetrical on, you know, the front and back on this. And so anyway, the collar is worked at the same time as the body. Here you can see that there is shoulder shaping that happens, and also neck shaping that happens. I am connected. Under the arm, I worked a good chunk of the body, and then I was very close to finishing my second ball of yarn, and so then I transitioned to working on the sleeve, and I only worked, I think this might be like 5 rows of the sleeve so far, but started working on the sleeve, and so I'm very happy with this progress on it. Also considering that it's a sport weight yarn, and so it's a pretty, the gauge is pretty, it's not that small, but like it is a good, it's a pretty small gauge project, and yeah, I feel good about it. Okay, I want to talk about how it feels to knit with this yarn, because I was very pleasantly surprised with this yarn. I knew that I loved Shaniko yarn, and I was just curious. I've only ever used Shaniko yarn, either my own hand spun of it, or like from a hand dyed, like a hand dyed yarn that was Shaniko base. And so I wasn't sure how close or different this would feel. Although this is the first time I think I've used a sport weight Shaniko. Actually, was one of them sport weight also, or was it a DK? I feel like it was DK, but anyway, this yarn feels great. I would highly recommend. I'm not done with this project. I didn't wash and block and know exactly how it feels, but just knitting with this and feeling how this fabric feels, highly recommend this yarn. And it is a much affordable option, more affordable option than hand-dyed yarn, and so that's great. They come in solid colors, but I think probably colors that ones that you would like, or something you could find that you like. And honestly, it's been great. I loved working with this, and you can probably tell because I knit so much of it. And the reason why, I'm trying to think of words to describe how this yarn feels. It does have that nice Shaniko feel, where it is the softness and kind of like that bounce from, you know, like a crème brûlée kind of feel, but it's also so like kind of velvety. It has this really nice kind of like smoothness to it, and part of me feels like this yarn, the way that it feels to knit and how it kind of like feels knit up, reminds me of like a woolen spun yarn. And I am quite sure that this is not a woolen spun yarn, but I think it's just because it has that nice bounce and airiness that it makes me feel that way. Again, it could just be kind of the Shaniko, and that's how the yarn feels, but it reminds me of what I like about woolen spun yarn. And so, because it still has that nice, it's smooth, but has that nice, still like a fluffness to it, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's great. I'm very happy with it. I would definitely buy this yarn again if I need some kind of, I think they also have it in not just sport weight, like they have, Knit Picks has this yarn, the Shaniko yarn. I think they might all be called High Desert. They might all be called High Desert, but like in a worsted, maybe a DK. That would be kind of nice too. But yeah, very pleasantly surprised with this. would definitely get this yarn again for future projects, and I'm just really excited to get this finished so that I can wear it and see how it feels. But yeah, it feels really great. Nice softness. There's no stiffness to the fabric of the yarn either. It's just so nice and flowy, and it's really great. So that's been a nice project for me to work on from end of last year into this year. And yeah, again, that is the Yonagi cardigan pattern. And let's see. Okay, and then my last whip to talk about is my DRK Everyday Socks by Mowry. And these are my Christmas Eve cast on, or my Christmas sock cast on that I started with my friends, and we spun, sorry, I feel like I'm talking about this in a very disorienting order, but okay, me and my friends bought some matching colorway fiber earlier in last year, 2025, to spin and then knit Christmas socks, and then we did a video call to cast on our Christmas socks, and that was so fun. And yeah, so I started it. These are the socks. And I think actually most of us are using the DRK Everyday Sock pattern for this. This is my second year participating in this kind of like Christmas sock cast on. Last year I also did the DRK Everyday Sock pattern, and I just feel like I don't know. I think because for handspun socks, sometimes I don't know quite what yarn weight I ended up spinning. And so the DRK, because they're all around ribbed socks, sizing wise, it's nice and it'll fit for, kind of whatever size it is. So anyway, I don't know if I showed it to you all on here, but here is my handspun. The fiber is from Yarn Jam. It is the Shaniko Silk Blend fiber. And it is the colorway Very, Very Merry, and so I love it. There's a lot of pink in this, and so that makes me very happy. And then here is it, all knit up. These socks are knit toe up, and I've already done the heel, and so here's the heel. Also, so nice. How nice is it that I somehow, at the part where you do the heel, it all ended up being the pink color? That's really funny how it worked out that way. But yeah. Here's the socks. I know they look very skinny, but again, it's all around 2x2 rib, another 2x2 rib thing that I was making. And my fiber was, I did a 3-ply and I split them up into, I think, pretty small pieces. And I'm really happy with how the striping turned out on this. I like that the stripes are pretty small, and so I'm getting a lot of those colors in to one sock. And there's a lot of barber poling happening. I'm going to stick my hand in this so you can maybe see it a little better. Just kind of how that looks in the ribbing. It looks very kind of like sprinkly, and so I really like that. And yeah, I'm now working on just like the leg part of it, and so I want to make it a little bit longer. So, but I think I should be able to finish this. This is the first sock, so I want to finish this coming week and then start the second one as well. It would be really nice to finish this in January, just to get that done, and so I can wear them. And yeah, I am knitting the size 6, which is the woman's small size, and I'm using US 1 needles, 2.25 millimeter needles to knit this. I have knit this sock pattern quite a few times already, and I actually sized down this time for this sock, and I think will fit perfectly now. My other ones, I think my first one fit really nicely, but I made the woman's medium size, and that was my handspun. But I think my handspun was like, for that one, it was like really thin, and so I think the gauge ended up being a bit smaller, and so it fit my foot really nicely. The second time I made it, I think, was for last year's Christmas socks, and I knit the woman's medium, but I think my sock yarn, or my handspun ended up being, it was a bit thicker. It probably was more of a sport weight, and so the sock is fine. I still wear it, but it is a bit loose, and so this time around, I was like, I did a 3-ply, and I was like, I think this is really more of like a sport weight yarn, And so, but I think it is thicker, thinner than last year's yarn. But I wanted it to fit more snug, and so I decided to size down. And yeah, it fits really nice now. So very happy with that. So I think maybe going forward, if my yarn is feeling a bit more this thickness, I should probably knit the woman's small size for these socks. But yeah, I'm very happy with how this is knitting up. I think it's so cute, and I love that I cast on with my friends. We were all kind of like in different places in different time zones when we video called each other for this cast on, but it was nice to see everyone, at least for a little bit, and start our socks together. And everyone's handspun looked so good and so cute. So yeah, it was a good time. I was glad I was able to see my friends during the holidays. So yeah, and then that is all I have for my whips. Well, I have my blanket, but I didn't work on my blanket since the last time we talked, but then that's it. That's all the whips I have. I started the new year, I guess, with a few cast-ons, but they were like very freshly new cast-ons, and so I feel really, really good about that. I wasn't bringing too much old cast-ons into the new year, and so yeah, it was great. Okay, and then I just started spinning. I didn't spin for like the last few weeks of 2025, but I came back and I started 2 spins. And so I do have them here to show you. None of them are finished yet, but first one I want to talk about is the Fibre is from Little Fibre Co., the Cormo Rose Batt, which I got from Flock in 2025, which was last year. And it is in the colorway Impossible. And so I wonder how well this camera is going to pick it up. But here is my singles of this. This is the full Batt. The Batt was, I think, oh, I wish I brought the tag down, but it was not 4 ounces. It was less than that. I think it was 60 grams. But here it is. It is a super light kind of rainbow pastel colors in the Batt. And so I just need to wind this off into a center pole ball, and then I'll do a 2-ply to finish this off. And this was my first time spinning with something that had like a rose fiber in it, and it pretty much felt like kind of having silk in there, and so that was pretty cool, and it was nice. One thing about this Batt, it'll be interesting how the final yarn comes out, because I spun this with different techniques. In the beginning, I was like, oh, I heard that people spin from batts. I haven't spun too many batts. It's a bit, and if you don't know what a batt is, it's just kind of like a sheet of fiber. And so for this one, when I started, I was like, oh, I've heard some people spin from batts, like without, okay, wait. One way I've seen and I've done in the past with batts is I tear them up into strips and then spin, each strip one after the other. For this one, I was like, ooh, I have heard that some people spin batts from corner to corner. So they just use they don't break apart the sheet of fiber, and then you just spin from corner to corner. And I was like, I want to try that. And so I was doing that, and I was doing it with a short forward, so a worsted spinning technique, and I was doing that. And I was like, ooh, it's kind of getting a little hard to like move. I'm like holding the entire Batt, right? And kind of like, it's not like I'm moving a whole bunch, but because because the Batt is huge, you kind of, you only spin from like one point. You kind of have to keep moving from where you're taking up the fiber. And then I was like, oh, what if I did a long draw instead? Because then maybe it'll catch the fibers a bit easier. Sometimes I feel like doing that, it's easier when the fibers are kind of like more spread out. And so then I was long drawing, but if you can imagine, you have to hold your fiber source and pull that back. And I had the whole Batt. The Batt was on the smaller side, but still, I was like having to do that, and I was getting kind of like caught up in things, and I was like, okay. So then after that, I decided to split it up into smaller strips. And so all of those singles were kind of spun up very differently, or, the whole thing from start to finish. There's different sections of how I spun it, so it would be interesting to see when I apply it, if you can still notice that. But I just went kind of just like going with the flow, whatever I'm feeling with that one. And so yeah, but it was quite fun. It was a fun way for me to get back into spinning, I feel like. So I did a little bit of each kind of like technique and some new things, which for me was fun. And then I wanted to let that rest. I do think that lately, or maybe last year, towards the end of last year, or ending half of last year, I don't know, but oh my gosh, my mind is just like, okay, for spinning, I've heard that you want your singles to rest before you ply them. And I think earlier on in my spinning, I was like, I don't really care if I'm done and I want to ply, I'm just going to ply. And I was like, I don't know if it really matters in the end. But later on, I was, I would let them rest and sometimes I wouldn't. And I did notice that when you let them rest, when you're applying the yarn, the singles don't kind of like wind up on itself and like pigtail as much while you're, trying to ply them together than when you let them rest and they're kind of they're not as like kind of like tight, or, they're not doing the pigtaily thing as you're trying to ply them together. And so I do feel like now I will let them rest at least for a day or like half a day before I ply. And so all of that story just to say, so when I finished spinning this, I was like, well, I gotta wait a day, or I'm going to wait at least a day before I ply this, but I wanted to keep spinning. And so I did start a second spin project, and this is I decided to do another Batt. This one, again, from the same flock, from Flock 2025. This is the Charlie Batt from Witch Fire Fibers. I think me and a few of my friends also got some Batts from Witch Fire Fibers at Flock. Charlie is the sheep name. And I just brought this down to show you what it looks like. The Batt was huge. The one that I got, I think, was like 3.5 ounces. The Batt was huge. This fiber is so soft and airy. I feel like you can just see that from the camera view here. I did split them up into strips. This one I did split up into strips, and so this is just like one of them. And it's so soft that I feel like I almost can't like feel it. And then here is this is not even half of it yet, but this is what I have spun up so far. And even just on the bobbin, you can just see how much fluff and like volume there is on this. Ooh, it looks so good. Okay, I am doing this long draw, and I will say this is a bit more of a challenge to spin because, I've had in the very beginning of me spinning this, there's a lot of breakage because I would like pull back on the long draw and then there would be like no fiber and it would just like fly off. So I had to kind of like adjust how I do my long draw with this one. I think there's just more space in between the fibers, I feel like, in this one. And so for it to catch, to get the twist in, I think I need to wait more and have like more twists than I feel like my body is normally or like used to doing with the long draw. And so I just have to wait a little bit longer. And I've been pretty successful. There is a lot more, I don't know if it's just the way that the fiber is prepped, but there's a lot, my yarn is very thick and thin. I have a lot of poofs that kind of just like happen in it, but for the most part, I've been letting them just like go. For this spin, I feel like because I'm not spinning it for something in specific, I'm just letting the fiber do its thing and however it wants to spin. And so it's going to be there's going to be a lot of floofs, a lot of puffs of fiber in there, but I'm really excited to see how this comes out as a final yarn once I ply it. I am planning on, I did kind of split it up half and half, at least just eyeball it, and so I'm going to do a 2-ply. And so we'll see how it turns out. But it's just been fun. It's a fun spinning, I don't know if I'd call it an experiment, but it's fun to get back into spinning this year. And to start off with like Batts and kind of like get myself kind of like not right straight into my comfort zone of spinning, but kind of like doing something working with Fibre, that's a little bit new to me. So yeah, so that's been really fun. Oh, one more comment I have on this Batt. If you also bought this Batt from Flock and you haven't spun with it yet, I do feel like there's a bit of, I couldn't tell right away, but after kind of like touching the Fibre a little bit, it does feel like there's a bit of some kind of, I don't know if it's soap or oil or like lanolin in it, but I do feel it. I feel a little bit of, I wouldn't even say stickiness, but a little bit of something on my fingers after spinning with this for a little bit. So, but yeah, it's not anything like super, it's very light, but I do kind of feel it on my fingers. So yeah, okay, but yeah, exciting. Have new knit projects, I have new spin projects. Hopefully one of those will be done by next week, or both. That'll be pretty cool. I want to do a lot of spinning this year. I want to get through my Fibre stash. Not get through it just to get through it. I love it all, but I have a lot of Fibre. And I want to spin. I want to spin through it. I want to make some nice, pretty handspun skeins. I want to do that. I don't have yet a full shelf in my yarn stash of like just handspun, and I would love that. I think that was something I wanted last year, and it never happened. I think just because I actually do use my handspun quite a bit, but maybe this year will be the year. I just spin a whole bunch and get a whole bunch of nice, pretty skeins, different color skeins to go into my yarn stash. Okay, and then I do have one acquisition. I bought this yarn last year. It does not count towards my last year's yarn intake. It's going to count towards this year's intake because it came into my house this year. But it was pretty funny because I think that the mail, like for this, it technically arrived last year, but I was already gone, and so we had the mail hold, right? And so this was held until we came back this year. So I just got it. Anyway, as you can maybe, did I mention this already? I bought some yarn from Red Door Fibre Studio when she had her K-pop Demon Hunters collection, because I love K-pop Demon Hunters. Yes, I am still watching this movie on occasion. Have I watched it this year? Yes, already in 2026. I've already watched it. Rewatched it for the millionth time. But anyway, I really needed some yarn, and I decided to limit myself. I got 3 skeins of this colorway because it's so cute, and it's in such a cute base. This is the Party Fluff base, and so it is a 42% superwash merino, 32% superfine alpaca, 18% neon Donegal nep, 8% linen. Oh, I didn't know there was linen in here. That's really cool. But yeah, there's neon tweed bits in here, and it's a fluffy base, and this colorway is Happy Fans, Happy Honmoon. I feel like this color might not be like the first thing you think of when you think of a yarn color I might buy, but there's just something about this color and the neon tweed bits in here that just got me. It's so cute and it's so happy. So I had to get 3 skeins of this, and I plan on making a sweater. I think maybe some kind of like V-neck sweater. I'm trying to think. Oh, the Slightly Sassy V is an option. I think I looked at that for some yardage estimates, and so that might be it. I'm hoping I can cast this on pretty early on this year. But yeah, I got this, and it's so cute and it's so fluffy. And yeah, it should be fun to use a new base. I don't have a base like this that I've worked with before. So that's my one acquisition. Okay, I want to talk really quickly about my trip to Hawaii for the holidays. My family's in Hawaii, and so I do sometimes go back to visit them. And as you maybe know, if you've watched towards, I guess, the end of last year's videos, I had some big projects planned for Christmas gifts for my family, and they were all successes. I'm so happy with them. So I'll try my best while I'm talking about it to put up pictures here of, the results. I did put it on my Instagram too, so you can go and check it out there as well. But for those of you who don't use Instagram or don't follow me there, I'll put them up here too. So the first one is my fish bags. Do you remember the fish bags that I made and planned on making for my cousins and also for my dad? This is a sewing project though, so it's not knitting, but it's a sewing project. And just to recap on how that all came about, I saw this pattern, I thought it was really cute, and so I made one for myself, and I absolutely am obsessed, was obsessed, still am pretty obsessed with my fish bag. And I was like, it'd be so cute to make this for my cousins, because last year, or in 2024, Christmas gifts for my cousins, I knit them all, and my sister, I knit them all Stella quilt cushions. And I think that was the first time I did like a handmade, actually that's not true, but it was the first time I felt really happy and proud with the handmade thing that I made for them for gifts. And so anyway, from then, or for 2025, the whole year I was thinking, what am I going to make them? Because I want to make them something, I just don't know what. Nothing was inspiring me that felt like it would be fun for me to make and also fun for them to have. And then, anyway, so I made the fish bag for myself, and I was like, oh my gosh, perfect. So then I had my sister help me pick out fabric combinations for my cousin's bags and for her bag also, so I made it for them. Also, my dad loves, or he used to fish all the time. He doesn't fish anymore, but anytime there's like a fish thing that I could craft, I'm always like, ooh, maybe for my dad too. And so I included him in the bunch. So that meant 5 more fish bags. But I made them, I gave it to them for Christmas, and their reactions to it were so cute, and I didn't want to have super high hopes for what their reactions would be to it, but yeah, I was really happy with how they liked it, they loved it. And then we made sure that we had an outing later, we had coffee out, and we all wore our fish bags to it so that we could get some nice pictures, because for the actual like Christmas night, one of our cousins had to go home early, and so she didn't get to open it with us, but we wanted a big group picture of all of us, and so we got that when we had our little coffee outing together, and it's so cute. It turned out really nice. And also there was like people who came up to us and they're like, why do you all have fish bags? Like, are you in a fish club or something? And so I just thought it was really funny, and I think they like it, so it made me very happy, very, very happy. And so I'm glad that was such a success. And then I had a Christmas present. It was not, so the fish bags were a surprise except for my sister because she helped me with the planning of it. But they were a surprise for my cousin. And then for my mom and my sister, they knew that I was planning on making them fleur tees. And so they knew this was happening, but it was going to be their Christmas presents. And I'm so happy that I was able to finish them with enough time to wash and block them so that it was all fresh and done for them. And thank goodness they fit, both of them. I took their measurements and I was very careful about it. I tried to be as careful as I could about it when I was making them, but because they're not living here with me, I couldn't like have them try it on in between, and so I was quite nervous about if it was going to fit them in the end because there were some modifications I made to them, but they fit great, I think, and as you can see in the picture too. And yeah, I think that they loved it. We did wear them all. We had lunch together and we wore them out. And so we got our group picture and I think it turned out really cute. Also, one of my friends, when I posted the picture on Instagram, she's like, oh, they're like Powerpuff Girl colors. And I did not even, it was not even planned. I mean, like, I obviously picked pink because pink is my favorite color. But for my sister and my mom, I just asked them to pick a color that they liked. But yeah, it didn't register to me that they were Powerpuff Girl colors, but I absolutely love that that's how it turned out. And yeah, it turned out great. The yarn I used for that was all from Sorella's Summer in London collection, and it was in her new kind of linen wool and something base. And yeah, it turned out great. And as far as, okay, that was my first time also wearing it in kind of like a warmer temperature too. And it was great. It didn't feel itchy. Because I know sometimes for me, when I wear wool, when it's hot, it does kind of sometimes get a little itchy just because it's kind of like slightly sweaty for me. And so if you live in a warmer climate place, I think that yarn base or probably maybe something similar to it will probably be really great in warm weather. I mean, I think that, you know, plant bases are usually warmer weather friendly, but yeah, that one was great and I actually got to try it out. So, and I wore it the whole day too, in a way. So yeah, it was great. And I'm very happy with how that all came out. I think they all like their gifts, and I wouldn't call myself a big gift knitter, but the things that I have made in 2025 for other people were pretty big successes, and I'm really happy with it. So I am already kind of on the hunt or just looking out for things that I can make for family this coming year. I have one whole year to plan and to make. So yeah, they're all great successes. Yay. Okay, now it is time to talk about and review my 2025 goals and then also talk about my 2026 goals. Okay, to review my 2025 goals and if I reached them or not. I think I did pretty good with my goals. I didn't accomplish everything. Part of it maybe was slightly because throughout the year I wasn't looking at my goals that I set out at the beginning, and so I just forgot about them. But let's talk about them one by one. So my first goal was to be stash negative. And I do want to clarify what I mean by this, because this technically is not quite true. What this goal means for me is that I knit with more yarn, and I calculate this yardage wise. Knit more yarn than I buy. That's how I'm tracking it. And so knitting just includes everything I knit and knit throughout the year and finish. Or just finish in the year the yardage that I knit, and then anything I buy. And I'm being specific about this because sometimes, when I do yarn swap with my friends, I do gain some yarn. I also let go of some yarn during that, and I don't calculate that. So it's possible that I might bring in more yarn, but I didn't buy it, and so it doesn't kind of get calculated that way. I know this feels a little bit like cheating, but this is how I'm defining this goal. And I want to define it here because it is one of my 2026 goals as well. But as far as did I knit with more yarn than I bought in 2025? Yes. I was a little close though. A little close for comfort. But the difference between what I knit with and what I bought was about 3,000, almost 4,000 yards. So it's close. It sounds like a big number, but yardage wise, it's a little bit close for me, but I did accomplish that goal, and so I feel good about that. I'm hoping that I can knit with even more yarn than I bring in or buy this year, but we'll see. But anyway, so that's that goal. I had a goal to knit 12 socks. That was my year of socks last year, and I did it. I knit 12 socks, one per month, so great. That worked out. I also said no mystery yarn, and I'm pretty sure I bought no mystery yarn in 2025. I know one of the things that always got me for the few years before that was the Explore Knit Solstice yarn boxes, mystery sets, and I did not buy it this past year. I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys, because my friends got the yarn and showed it to me, and because I obviously want to see it and I'm not going to get it. And I looked at the colors and I was like, I am happy I skipped this year. And Allie from Explore Knits makes gorgeous yarn. I love her yarn. I buy a lot of her yarn. But the collection for the solstice in 2025 was just not quite my color palette. It was very bright and very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very saturated colors. And so that's not me. I'm more pastel, pinks. I can do purples or do neutrals, so I'm happy I didn't get it this year, gonna be honest. But that also, I didn't get it, and so I'm pretty sure I didn't get any mystery yarn last year, because I don't know what else I would have potentially got. So, and because I'm also was not in any yarn collective things where you get mystery yarn. It's not even mystery yarn, but just like, actually, that is not mystery yarn at all. My mind's just... But I did I have that in any of my... I don't think I had, no... What's it called? Monthly subscription. I don't think I had a subscription goal in 2025, but it was something I was working towards. The only subscription I had last year was one Fibre subscription. And anyway, so yeah, no mystery yarn last year, which is great. I met that goal. Okay, I had a goal to spin and knit my Nest Fibre Advent, which was from the year before. If it was Christmas 2024 or December 2024 Advent, and it was 24 1 ounce fiber bundles. My goal was to spin and knit with it. I reached half of that, so I didn't quite reach this goal, but I did spin all of them. I just didn't knit with any of them. So I half met that goal. Okay, I had a Make 9 last year, and I finished all 9 projects, which is great. I was kind of cutting it pretty close towards the end. I just really had to work on it towards the end, but I made it. Okay, I had a spinning goal to spin 4 ounces a month, which is 48 ounces in the year. And I beat that by a lot. I spun 104 ounces last year, which is great. I also, as far as like stats and numbers go, that'll be part of my Everything I Made video, which hopefully I will film it very soon. But yeah, so I spun 104 ounces. That is more than double, actually pretty close to double, but more than double what my goal was. And so that's great. Okay, and then the 2 last goals I had that I did not do at all was I had a goal to knit 2 Christmas stockings. That didn't happen. I don't think I completely forgot about it, but I had so many things I wanted to do towards the end of the year that I was like, it's not happening. So I did not knit any Christmas stockings. And then the other goal was to knit if you remember, I wanted to kind of self-draft a cardigan that I really liked in a movie I saw. And I made a swatch in 2024, I think. So I was like, maybe 2025 is the year I will actually knit this cardigan. That didn't happen at all. It just didn't happen. Yeah, so it's still something I want to do, but it's going to take some kind of motivation in me to do it. So we'll see. One day I think it'll just be like, I'm going to do it. Like I just have to one day just feel like I want to do that. So something I still want to do, but I don't think it's going to be a goal for this year. Okay. So that's a quick recap of my 2025 goals. I think I did pretty good. I feel quite good about them, even though I didn't reach all of them. Okay, and then I have, I think, slightly less goals planned for this year, but I feel good about what I have. So, and some of them are repeats. Some is just because I really want to just like keep a certain habit going. And I feel like you'll know what I mean when I say them. Okay, 2026 goals. Knit with more yarn than I buy. I feel like that's going to be a goal of mine every year. I would love to just have my yarn stash kind of shrink a little bit. I would love for it to eventually my entire yarn stash to fit in this cabinet behind me. Right now, this is a mix of like finished objects, fiber, and some yarn. But if I could fit all of my yarn into this, that would be great. And so yeah, that's going to be a goal, I think, every year. I do have another Make 9 this year. Actually, I guess I should talk about the Make 9. Let me pull it up really quick because, yeah, this took me a little bit. I had to do some readjustments because some of the things I wanted on my Make 9 for this year, I already started. One of them being the Yonagi cardigan, which I've already started. And so I was like, I have to take that off my Make 9 because I want my Make 9 to be things that I start and finish in the year. Okay, so here's my Make 9. I'm going to go kind of like from left to right, top to bottom order, hopefully. So I'm just going to talk about, I don't want to take too long on this, but okay, so the first one is and this is not in any particular order, just how it ended up in the picture that I have. Okay, first up is the Willow Pullover by Andrea Gone. I have yarn for this. The Checker Plate Sweater by Lily Kate France. I also have yarn for this, and so I think most of these I have yarn for, and that's why I'm like, I just want to make them. And putting them on Make 9, I feel like I will accomplish this if I put them on Make 9. Okay, the Dreamer Cardi by Tori Yu. I also have yarn for this. The Urania by Sorry Nordland. I also have yarn for this, and so I'm quite excited. Okay. I'm going to try my best to pronounce this one. This is the Cheonghwa Bakja Vest by Sedna Yang. This is a Korean designer. I haven't knit any of her stuff before, but I am so excited to make this one because I don't know, I think I've mentioned this in the past before, but I've always wanted to have like a I wanted to try steeking. And this is a technique that ever since I learned about it, I was like, I want to try it. However, because it involves, usually I think steeking happens when there's a very complicated or just like color work thing, that color work is much easier to do in the round than it is flat. And so if you need to make something that involves color work flat, you would just, there's patterns where you actually knit it in the round, but then you cut it. So for example, if there's a cardigan, you color work cardigan, instead of doing color work flat, because doing color work and doing all that on the wrong side is like quite difficult. It's doable, but I think it's quite difficult. Instead of doing it flat, you would do it in the round and then cut, where the opening of the cardigan would be. But the thing I've struggled with it is that there was never a pattern I saw that I wanted to make that was a steeked pattern. And I was like, if I'm going to go through all of this effort for color work to steek, I want this to be a pattern that I don't want to look for a pattern so that I can steek. I want to see a pattern that I absolutely love and want to make, and it happens to be steeked. And I finally found the pattern. It is this vest, and actually when I saw this pattern, it was because it was going into testing, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm absolutely going to make or add this to my to make list once the pattern comes out. The pattern is out now, and so I already bought it when it was like on the pattern sale for like the pattern release, I think it was. And then obviously I went to look at the other designs that this pattern maker has, and she has this other cardigan. It's not in my Make 9, but this other cardigan pattern that is so gorgeous and is also a steeked pattern. And so, yeah, there's now 2 steeked things that I would love to make. What I do know is that there is, for this vest pattern, the colorwork pattern, there is a cowl pattern that is the same design, colorwork design, and so I think that I want to start with that actually to make sure that my gauge and stuff is correct and that I feel pretty comfortable before I work on something that's going to end up being steeked, because I just want to make sure that the yarn I decide to use is good and feels nice, looks nice, color combo and all of that. So that's kind of my plan right now, but so excited for this one. I think it's going to take me a long time to make, so I need to make sure that I plan accordingly for that. Okay, I do have one crochet pattern in my Make 9. It is the Petal Spell Slipover by Stitch Story. I have crocheted a cardigan pattern by her in 2025, last year, and I really enjoyed it. And so when I saw this pattern, I was like, it's so cute. I just didn't have the time or yarn inspiration to make the Petal Spell Slipover in 2025, but I'm hoping to make it this year. Okay, and then I have the Rosemary Cardigan by Aimee Christoffers. I have yarn for this. I think I got it from Rose City Yarn Crawl. There was a yarn, and I think the person selling the yarn was like, oh, I've used this yarn base. I think because it's a Shaniko yarn base, I think. And they're like, I've used this amount of skeins and whatever, or this yarn, specifically for the Rosemary Cardigan. It worked out really nice. And I was like, sounds great. So I want to make the exact same thing. So that is why that's on the list. And then the Boulder Bridge Tank by Bloom and Create. And I've actually wanted to make this since the pattern came out. And it just kind of like never showed up in my things that I end up casting on. So since it's been a while since I wanted to make this, I also added this onto my list. And also to add, there's a lot of sweaters on my Make 9, and so I was like, it'd be nice to have like a tank on there. Okay, and then the Midland Cardigan by Laura Penrose. This is a pattern I also got yarn from Rose City Yarn Crawl last year to make this specifically, and so, most of these projects I have the yarn and project planned already. I just need to do it. And all of these, there's even more that were potential to put on my Make 9, but they didn't quite make it, but I still plan on making them. But yeah, that's my Make 9 for this year. I'm excited about all of them, but honestly, I'm really, really excited about that steeked vest because that's exciting. If you're wondering what part of the vest is steeked, because it is, the body's in the round, I believe from pictures I've seen, the part that is steeked is the armholes and the V-neck, which I find so fascinating. So yeah, very exciting. But I do have to buy yarn for that one and figure out what color combination I want to do for that. Okay, and then moving on to my next goal for this year is to, again, spin 4 ounces a month, which is 40 ounces a year. I know I totally went way past that last year, but I feel like keeping it pretty, I don't want to have like such a big spinning goal for the year. I feel like as long as I get at least, and the idea is 4 ounces is usually a braid of fiber is 4 ounces. And so I'm like, if I can spin at least 1 braid every month, that would be great. And then I am not doing a year of socks this year. I think if you watch Megan's podcast and maybe even Emily's podcast, they might have said that, yeah, we've all kind of felt a little sock knitted out a little bit. I mean, we have our Christmas socks, but not to do another whole year of socks. But we would like to do something like a single skein project, 1 per month. And so I am planning on doing that. I don't think I'm going to plan out my skeins for these like how I did with the socks last year. I think I'm just, every month I'll just be like, what is a single skein project I want to make? So I have no pattern planned ahead or yarn planned ahead for this. I'm just going to kind of go with the flow and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so we'll see. I know we're already, again, it's January 10th. I haven't figured out what my January project will be, but yeah, we'll see. It'll just come. It'll come to me, I think. Okay, and then my last goal for 2026 is no mystery yarn. Again, most of these goals are actually carryovers from last year because I like having these goals in mind and I want to kind of like keep some of these habits in me for the future, such as no mystery yarn. And just because, you know, I have a lot of gorgeous yarn in my stash that I want to use and knit with, and I don't need, at this point, I don't need, like I've already, you know, tried some mystery yarn things. I've had yarn subscription, fiber subscriptions, and now I just want to enjoy what's in my stash. It's not going to stop me from buying yarn, but I would like to try and, yeah, I would like to use more yarn in my stash because they're all things that I love. So yeah, those are my goals. I just have, that's 3, 4, 5 goals for this year. That's it. And I feel very good about them. And there's other things that I like am eyeing as far as like I would like to do this year, but I don't want to make it concrete goals. And so I'm feeling really good about these. Excited for 2026. Excited to see how this year goes. So yeah, let me know if you have goals for this year, like ones that you're also planning for 2026. If you had goals in 2025, how did you do? Did you meet them? And yeah, I'd love to know did you have any Christmas cast-ons? Did you have any New Year's cast-ons? I'd love to know. I'm feeling very inspired right now to cast on a whole bunch of things. And yeah, I'm so happy to be back and talking with you all and sharing with you all what I've been working on. So looking forward to hearing about what you all have been up to as well. And I hope you all had a great start to 2026. I'm happy to be back, and I'll see you all in next week's video. Bye!